Hello and welcome back to Hank's Yarncast. My name is Casey. I'm the owner and operator of Hank's Yarn Parlour in Belfast. Thank you so much for joining me. You're very welcome here. It's just where I share a little bit of shop news and also the projects that I've been working on. I usually start with shop news, so that's what we'll do. First up, just a quick word about a couple of classes that are coming up. So the next one on the table is our double knitting workshop. And if you're not familiar with double knitting, now this doesn't refer to the yarn weight of double knitting. It actually refers to double-sided knitting. So this is a color work technique in which you're working two sides of fabric at once. So you end up with kind of right sides on both sides. So if you can see that, I'm not sure if that'll focus, but I've got knit stitches on both sides and they are kind of inverted colors. They don't always have to be strictly inverted like this. You can get a little bit more complicated patterns that have two totally different patterns on either side. But yes, so this technique, the workshop for this is on the 28th of August, so it's coming up. There's still a few spaces left in that one. It is booking up though, so if you're interested in that, I'll have all the links to the classes and whatnot below, so do check that out. This technique can be used for all sorts of things, and in the course we just make kind of like one of these little pot holder trivet jobbies, and but it's very common to use it for things like scarves. I've seen reversible hats, all sorts of things really, and it does make a really lovely extra squishy fabric because it's double-sided. So looking forward to that one coming up. After that, at the beginning of September, I believe middle of September, the 13th, I believe, nope, not the 13th, sorry, the 10th and the 17th is our Granny Square class. So you can come along to that. It's suitable for beginners if you're looking to learn how to crochet, if you've never crocheted before. We also do have the wind spinner class that's just kind of gone past as kind of like a one-night taster session. The Granny Square class kind of shows you a little bit more, but it is still suitable for beginners. We're still going to go over kind of the basics of chaining, double crochet, treble crochet to make squares, and then we'll discuss how to join squares and all the different things that you can make with them. A little bit later in September, I believe the date is the 24th, is our introduction to knitting in the round, which is kind of great for beginners. If you're already a bit familiar with knitting flat, just how to cast on, knitting and purling, and you want to broaden your horizons and learn how to knit tubes for hats, socks, cowls, jumpers, that sort of thing. In that class, we make a scrunchie. I'm afraid I don't have the sample with me. So prepared, but that class is on, I believe it's the 24th of September. So all materials are included in our classes. Some of them do require you to bring needles, but you can find all the details for that under the events page on Hank's website, or I'll have all the links to those classes below, as well as I'm teaching an outside class, so not in the shop, at the Island Arts Centre in Lisburn on the 1st and 8th of October, and that one is for my slipper socks. So this is a really, really great intro to socks if you've never knit socks before. It's an Aran weight kind of house bed sock. It's probably not going to fit in your shoes. Maybe if you had a kind of oversized pair of boots, you might squeeze them in there, but it's thicker yarn. They're nice and cozy, but they work up quickly, so we can kind of get through the whole structure of how to knit a sock pretty easily. And these ones are knit cuff down with a German short row heel, so you'll learn a couple of different techniques for, we'll discuss a couple of different techniques for heels, but that's the one that we'll be using for this sock. And then we'll also talk about how to Kitchener your toes closed, stretchy cast-ons, all sorts of fun stuff to be learned in sock class. So if you're interested in that one, That is at the Island Arts Centre, so you have to book through their website. I will have a link for that below as well in the description. Okay, what else have I got? Oh, I'm so excited, you guys. So I've got some new project bags coming to the shop. I do have a few of them finished. I'm going to show you one now. So going a little bit of a different direction with project bags, just kind of based on some feedback that I've been having over the last year or so since I kind of started making them. Primarily that I think a lot of people are just a little bit nervous about zippered bags, and I totally get that. So a lot of our old bags were just kind of little simple zippered pouches. We're doing something a little bit different this time. So I'm going in direction. Okay, so we've got two. So this is kind of the tote size one. This is the smaller tote. I keep saying we, like there's more than me here. It's just me here, you guys. I am a one-woman show, okay? So I will be making some bigger sizes of these, but we're just going to start with the slightly smaller tote in the beginning and see how those go. So this bag, by the way, is based on the Firefly tote by Noodlehead Patterns. So that's the sewing pattern that it's based on. I have modified it, but if it's a bag that you're interested in, you want to try sewing your own, I'm not going to keep. You can absolutely go get the pattern and try it for yourself. It is a wonderful pattern. I really enjoyed making these bags. So they are, main compartment is the drawstring closure on it, which actually it tucks down inside the bag really nicely. On the inside of the bag, I don't know if there's enough light for you guys to see this. I kind of like that you can roll the top on the drawstring down so that it opens nice and wide if you want to knit kind of directly out of the bag. There is a little slip pocket on the inside here. I'm not sure how well that is showing up in the camera. So there is a little slip pocket there on the inside. That slip pocket is about 7 inches wide. I would say it's about big enough if you had kind of like an A5 size pattern or an A4 folded in half that you could shove it in there, but definitely pockets for little other kind of notions and stuff. There is also a slip pocket on the front, about the same size. This is a bit deeper, so that would be a good place to put a little pattern as well. And then there's also a zip pocket to keep any of the smaller notions like your stitch markers or cable needles, scissors, anything that is small or perhaps pokey that might escape the drawstring. I mean, the drawstrings on these do close quite tightly, but it's one thing that always makes me nervous with really small notions, especially like your fancy stitch markers and stuff like that. You don't want those to disappear out of your bag. So I prefer to have those in a secure zipper pocket, but I totally get that a lot of people get nervous about yarn getting caught in zips. So there we are, drawstring on the top where your yarn is, but still a nice safe zip pocket for your notions. This all tucked back in here. And it does have a nice adjustable and removable straps. You can actually, these get quite long, so you can easily put them over your shoulder or crossbody, even if you fancied. So this tote is about 13 by 15 by 5 inches, so they're good size. They do fit. You'd easily fit a sweater quantity's worth of yarn in here, no problem. The bigger bag will probably be a little bit more suitable for larger projects like blankets if you've got tons and tons of yarn to stuff in a bag, but they are really quite spacious. Now the other bags that we've got, so that would be kind of the larger drawstring. So I know I said that's a medium. There is another larger size. So there's kind of what I used to do. There were a small zip pouch that was kind of suitable for like sock sizes, and there would have been kind of like a medium drawstring bag and then larger drawstring bags and larger zip pouches. So I'm still kind of going for kind of 2 medium large size And then I've got the smaller pouches now. Are these really fabulous roll top bags to be a little bit more comparable to the sort of sock and smaller project size bags that we had before, but they're a little bit more versatile in that they're quite a bit deeper, so you can use them for slightly larger projects as well. And they will roll, you can roll the top down to kind of just however much. What I'm trying to say here is they're adjustable. So they open up like this. They're sort of like they almost look like a paper bag sort of thing. They do also have a ton of little slip pockets on the inside. Actually, I'll roll this one down as well so you can see. So they're fully lined, and there's a bunch of little slip pockets on the inside. I don't know if that's going to focus in there. Can I even get it wide enough so the camera can see in there? So yeah, there's, let's see, 7 little slip pockets on the inside here. So plenty of room for spare needles and notions. And there are like a couple of, the ones on the sort of sides of the bag are like these little skinny pockets. They're a little bit tighter, so they'd be really good for kind of smaller stuff just to get it to stay put. I am toying with the idea of modifying this pattern again to include a zip pocket on the inside, but I'm a little bit concerned about how much bulk that might add to the rest of the bag, because there's already a lot of layers going on in here. But so, oh, by the way, the pattern for this bag, this is the Julie roll top bag by Miss Freckles Designs. So you can find that pattern on Etsy as well. And then, so you can stuff, I think that this bag just kind of adds as a pretty good project bag for socks, hats, scarves, that sort of thing. But if you had maybe a larger scarf or shawl, I'm just going to see how many, I've got some 100-gram balls of the Rosario's Atlantico here, which by the way is new. And I think I mentioned this on the last episode of the podcast that it was on its way. Had it arrived yet? I can't recall, but anyway, we're gonna discuss this in a minute as well, because I've got a new project going on with that. Okay. I mean, there's 5 balls in there already, and there's still room. I could probably get 2 or 3 more in there, but so the idea is you just roll the top down, so it'll be kind of as big or as small as you need it, and the strap on the back that holds it closed is adjustable, so you just slide that slider kind of as loose or tight as you need it. And there is still like enough room in there that you can kind of use it as a handle as well. And off you go. So I've modified this a little bit as well. Mostly the strap hardware is a little bit different. I find that these little kind of lobster clasps are just a little bit easier to operate. I think the original pattern has like a split gate ring, which I just think is a little bit awkward trying to get on and off. It's not as easy. So yeah. So these bags are about 18 centimeters, which I did the other one in inches because that's just how my brain operates now. You know, I grew up with the measuring most small things in imperial system, and then you move to the UK and everything's metric. I'm just all over the place. So 18 centimeters, I think that's just over 7 inches. So it's about 7 by 4 by, I think unrolled, it's 13 inches. So, which is 33 centimeters tall, 18 centimeters wide, and centimeters deep. I'm going to have quite a few different fabrics in these as well, so there'll be lots of options to choose from. They should be launching in the shop, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. They will be in the shop starting next week. So this episode comes out on Saturday. Hopefully by Tuesday, they will all be listed in the shop. I'll have all the photos done and they'll all be listed on the website. And also, of course, they'll be just here in the shop for you to pop down if you want to have a gander at one or pick one up. So really excited about new bags. Let's see. So I suppose now I shall talk about projects. As you can see, I am wearing my bee's knees cardigan. So that is finished. Latest finished object, hot off the needles. I just finished it and got it blocked on Tuesday past. Put out a post on Instagram a couple of days ago that I was looking for help deciding on buttons, and I think we have decided on buttons. That's the last thing to go on the cardigan, and I have decided on these little etched. These are actually made of coconut, believe it or not. Let's just see if we can get that to focus. This camera always just wants to focus on my face. I don't know if it's focusing on the buttons because I can't see my monitor from over here. But hopefully you can see that. Anyway, they've got these little etched flowers on them. And I kind of just thought that might be a nice ode to the sweater because it's called the Bee's Knees cardigan. So obviously bees like flowers. So I think that's what we'll go with. That'll be the finishing touch on this garment. And I'm so chuffed with how this turned out, you guys. The fit is great. I'm very pleased with it. It's not massively oversized. I think her sample, she kind of intends for it to be between 4 and 6 inches of positive ease? Or sorry, 4 to 10 inches of positive ease is what it is. Like there's quite a bit there. I went for somewhere around 5.5, 6 inches. So this is the third size, which comes out at about 41 inches. I have a 36-inch bust. The texture is great. I'm very pleased that I'll just dip down here. I'm not sure if you can see in the back. This might work better actually if I take this cardigan off, so I can see what I'm doing camera-wise. So the cable panel meets in the back, and then you kind of Kitchener graft the two bits together. Now, she writes in the pattern that when you get kind of so far in the cable that you should just kind of switch to a 2x2 rib so that they line up in the middle. Of course, I wasn't having that. I suppose it depends on what size you do and what your tension, like your row gauge is. That might make a difference there, but I very happily landed on an exact repeat of the chart. Like the chart ended for both sides right in the middle. I had kind of stopped one row shy of the chart. That would be the row that I grafted them together. And it looks great. My opinion was, so she does have photos in the pattern of what that back panel looks like with just the 2x2 rib section in the back. However, the photo that she has there, she's got like a braid, her hair is braided, and it goes right down the middle of that. So you actually can't really see that exact portion really well. And I just thought, you know what, it looks great in the photo, but I feel like if you could see that whole thing and that kind of line of ribbing, I think just might throw it off a little bit for me. So I was determined to make the cable meet in the middle. It has. I'm delighted with that. It did take me, I think the last time that I showed that to you, I think I was still knitting up the front, so I hadn't quite made that meet, and then I had to pick up for the sleeves. You may have seen on Instagram as well that I had a little bit of sleeve drama that I modified the pattern again. So the pattern calls for sort of like this faux seam stitch that goes up the back side of the arm, but that in most patterns the sleeve is primarily knit on the right side, and that faux seam stitch would be a purl stitch, so it normally recedes. It's the opposite. This one, it was actually a knit stitch, and it was sitting very prominently. The tension on that one particular stitch was just wildly out of whack compared to everything else. It was really, really loose and really big. Was not a fan of that look. I got about 2/3 of the way through the first sleeve and just decided, no, I can't be having that. And all I did, I actually just dropped down that column of stitches and picked them back up purlwise instead. And yeah, I can't really explain the physics of this. Where is the underarm again? So you can see that section. So there is like a little bit, if you can see, where that texture changes right at the underarm. But I just think that this is so less intrusive and it just doesn't stick out as much as that other stitch did. And I can't explain why when it was a knit stitch, it was so loosey-goosey. And then when I turned around and picked up the exact same amount of yarn as a purl stitch, I didn't twist these. I didn't do anything else with them. They just sit totally fine. I don't. I can't really explain that logic when the rest of the texture on the sleeve is also primarily purl with the odd bit of knit stitches kind of interspersed in them. And I don't understand why those knit stitches sit nice and neat. But that one column, I don't know if it has something to do with it being a column. If you have any insight into that, you can let me know in the comments below. But long story short, it just didn't look very tidy. So I dropped it back down, picked it back up. And then when I did the second sleeve, I just went straight into purling that. And it looked so much better. I've also made my pockets. So this is a modification that I made. This cardigan the pattern does not include pockets, but I added them because I'm just constantly, even if it's not wanting to put any physical item in the pocket apart from my hands, I just feel like I'm always looking for a pocket to slip my hand into. So cardigan, every time I did a cardigan now, anything that could remotely serve as a jacket type garment, it's going to have pockets. So this time, rather than doing patch pockets on the outside or afterthought pockets that are still like just a straight rectangle down into the cardigan, I didn't actually, I wanted, okay, so I'll put this back on so you can kind of see where the pockets fall, because it's not a particularly long cardigan. It does sit just kind of between my, like just right at my hip. So I wanted the pockets to be, I didn't want to have to get my hand all the way up here to get my hand down in the pocket, if that makes sense. So I thought that kind of more of a slash pocket on the side from this angle would be better. It also meant that I could make the actual pocket linings themselves, the pocket themselves, a little bit bigger. So I can't actually get my whole hand in there, because even if I'd put a patch pocket here, it's still so close to the bottom of the cardigan that the pockets wouldn't have been very deep. Now I have, instead of knitting the pocket linings, mostly because I find that they stretch out. If you do put anything heavy in them, phone, keys is just poke through them. I did decide that I would just go ahead and try my hand at sewing pockets. I have sewn pocket linings before that I put into a knitted pocket to kind of give it some more structure, but I thought this time, I don't know that you really need the knitted pocket in that case. It was just like, just make the pocket out of fabric. So I did. I took this to my sewing machine. I bought this fabric. I can't remember from what vendor. I bought it at the Knitting and Stitching show last November. And it's just got like this really cute little ditzy floral print on it. And it's probably not showing up in the camera, but some of those little flowers have a lot of that exact same yellow tone that's in the jumper. So they're just kind of tying in. And I appreciate that. See them on both sides, so I've still got some thread on the inside there. But they're just kind of like a little nice, like, glimpse of some sort of contrast to the jumper. And I wanted them to have that fabric on the outside as well, because when the cardigan is open, the pockets are quite close to the front. And they are tacked down. So I sewed them, threads. So I did sew them to the opening that I made. And then I sewed them also kind of toward the, against the button band here, just so they wouldn't be like flapping about. But you can still see them when the cardigan is open. Just, you know, you gotta get a glimpse of them. So I wanted it to be a nice fabric on the outside as well as the inside of the pocket. And I'm really pleased with how those turned out. I did have to make a couple of these. The first couple of times I made them, I kind of self-drafted the pocket shape. and that was fine, except for I did not account for the seam allowance. So they were the right shape, but after I made them, they were just a little bit too small and I couldn't quite get my hand in them, so we had a bit of a mulligan on that, but hey, every day is a school day. Yeah, in the end, really, really pleased with how this turned out. Also still utterly baffled at the meterage requirements for this jumper. The meterage requirements, when you look at it on the pattern, make perfect sense. It's about what I would expect. I think for my size, she called for between 12 and 1,300 meters of yarn. I can't remember the exact number was. Which I am using the Balramu Woodnote DK, which is marked at 200. Sorry, I've got it right behind me here. Just double check. I think it's 204 or 205 meters. 204 meters, okay, per 100 grams. So you may recall that I had about 40 grams left over from the Creole cowl that I did previously. And that, you know, is kind of what I used to gauge swatch the sweater and debate what I was debating whether or not I needed to order the Aran weight in for this. But I did my swatch with my leftovers and it came out fine. So I used what I had left over to start the jumper and I took 6 more skeins off my shelves thinking, yeah, that's probably what it's going to take. No, it took 4. So I have less than 4.5 skeins in this entire thing. The whole jumper took less than 4.5 skeins, and it is the 3rd size. It's not even like it's the smallest size of the jumper. Yeah, I can't, it doesn't make any sense. It's like some sort of yarn TARDIS in here. It should have taken at least 400 more meters than it did. And I can totally understand it happens quite a bit for me that I would have a little bit left over. And a lot of designers will include a little bit of a cushion in their meterage estimates anyway, usually around 10%, and that kind of gives you enough for gauge swatch and slight differences in tension, that sort of thing. I'm quite a tight knitter, so I usually do have a little bit left over. Never had a whole 2 skeins, 200 gram skeins with that left over. Like, so I've only used about 65% of the yarn that this, well, maybe about 70%, because I did have that little bit extra that I used to swatch, and then whatever was left over from that went into it. I should have weighed the final garment, but its point is it used so much less, and I cannot figure out why. I'm not sure. Like, I find it really hard to believe that this cardigan would use that much less wool. Like, when I look at it, it's cabled, it's textured, it should be eating through quite a bit of yarn anyway. So the meterage requirements on the pattern didn't seem outrageous to me. I am actually thinking that the yarn is probably not, and like they will change. Okay, so here's the deal with meterage and yarn weight. So when they package yarn, the meterage is approximate, and it's actually primarily done by weight, but there's kind of like a limit. So you're getting at least the meterage that is marked, and at least the weight. But that weight is also I know this sounds a bit bizarre, but the weight of a hank of yarn can fluctuate depending on its environment and how much humidity there is in the air that yarn has absorbed and that sort of thing. So when the yarn weighs 100 grams in the factory and it's coming off the mill and that's its weight there, if it travels to a different climate, that can change quite a bit. And I mean, like well, not quite a bit, it could be a few grams difference, but it does also mean just that there's a lot of different factors in how that kind of final weight of the hank is determined or how much meterage goes into that. But I have never seen that big of a difference. Like, usually when I weigh balls in here before I start a project. I almost always weigh a ball of yarn before I start a project. Most of the ones that I have in the shop are 50 grams, and they usually weigh in at about 52 grams. And that could just be down to the humidity, things like that. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if that yarn is just completely off its rocker with its own meterage, and I'm interested in discussing it with my Baramu rep. But I find it really hard to believe that it could be that far out, and I find it even harder to believe that I didn't use a whole 200 grams of yarn to finish this. So I'm utterly baffled, but I'm also delighted, because if it used less yarn, then I'm fine with that. Happy days. Well, there's more yarn to make more things. So I'm really happy with the fit. It feels nice and cozy. I was a little bit concerned that the cable going across the shoulders might feel a bit tight, because it's the cable is sewn down to the back panel, and I know that my sewing can be a little bit tight, but I was really careful to make sure that I kept it fairly loose but still tidy, so that I can make sure that I hate being restricted in a garment that I can't. If it's tight across the back and I can't move my arm properly, it drives me absolutely bonkers and I won't wear it. So delighted that that's not the case here. It fits really well. I've got lots of range of motion. And it also, like, there's plenty of room here with it closed. I just need to get the buttons on. And I do love that texture. It just feels really nice and woolly. Soft but woolly and cozy, and it's definitely way too warm in Belfast to be wearing this right now. It's roasting. But yeah, I don't think that weather will last. We've actually had such a glorious summer here in Belfast. We usually get really crap summers. Last year was absolutely rotten, and it has been so hot consistently here for about the last 6 or 7 weeks, and it's kind of wild. We usually kind of get little pockets of like 2 or 3 really good days, and the rest of it is wet. Maybe warm, but still wet, and muggy and gross. And last year it wasn't even warm, so we're having a great summer. But I will definitely be prepared for when it cools down in a few weeks. So I'm really looking forward to wearing this. So that is the only finished object that I've got, but I do have a couple of whips that I want to share with you, actually things that I've just started. So the first one is, which one should I talk about first? I don't know. Let's talk about my crochet project first. So I had just mentioned that we got the Atlantico, which I left stuffed in this little project bag. So I'm going to have to get it all out now. So I think I also mentioned on the last podcast that I was thinking about trying a crochet garment for the first time with this lovely new Atlantico yarn from Rosario's For. So this is a cotton and sea cell blend, and sea cell is a type of tencel that's made, or a type of lyocell, if you will, that's made with seaweed. Really cool. And it's kind of a worsted weight sort of deal. First I will show you the pattern. So I did decide on a pattern. I know last year I was thinking more of like a summer garment, but I did remember that across my Instagram came this lovely pattern from Hannah Cross. And this is the Franny Granny Square sweater. So she has a whole series of pullovers and cardigans that use granny stitch, and some of them have squares and some of them are like a granny stripe kind of deal. So this one that I'm using has the squares. I just found that neckline really flattering, the contrast between kind of that higher round neck and the pattern giving you that V. I just found it was really, really flattering and super cute. So that's what we're going for. And these are, I've picked 5 colors. Whoop. See if I can pick them all up here to show you. So these are the 5. I've got a kind of white, a bluey green, kind of a beige sandy color, this lovely pop of coral, and this sort of brassy tan. And I'm absolutely obsessed with this color combination right now. It's definitely kind of beachy vibes. I don't know. I think originally, like, I had really planned on like a proper summer garment for these. It's getting a little bit late in the year for that now, despite the glorious weather right now. I know that weather will be gone by the time I'm finished this. I think this is probably going to be more of sort of like a springtimey transition sweater. So I think it may well take me. I don't think it'll take me that long. It won't take me to spring to finish this, but it probably will take me quite a while. I'm much slower at crochet than I am at knitting. But we've started. So I started making all the little squares for the neckline. So I think I've got 8 of these now. I need to make, there's a few little triangles that kind of fill in the gaps around the neckline. So all your squares go around the neckline. And you join all these up, and then you start working from there, kind of around, almost as like a larger granny square that you kind of start adding the rounds of granny clusters onto after that. And then, so as you would have seen there from the photo, she's got quite deep cuffs, like they're almost up to the elbow on that. And I do think that it's cute. I think what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to make that a little bit longer. She does have other samples on Ravelry as well that you can see, and ones that other people have made where you can bring that granny stitch further down the sleeve and have more of kind of a normal size cuff, which I think is probably what I'm going to do, because endless ribbing drives me crazy. And I think I would just kind of prefer most of the sleeve to have a little bit more of a looser. I think it'll really suit that sort of balloon sleeve look. I am definitely going to knit the ribbing though. I cannot stand crochet ribbing. I should say, clarify. I think it looks good. I hate working it. I find it really tedious and really awkward. And frankly, knitting ribbing is already tedious. We don't need to make it go on for any we don't need to make ourselves suffer anymore. And because I can knit, I think that's just going to work out better for me. Also, I find that my knitted ribbing is quite a bit more stretchy than my crochet ribbing. So for the neckline and the cuffs and probably the hem, I will probably just switch to knitting at that point. I'll just get all my the crochet bit done and then pick up the stitches for the bands afterward. I think will probably be a little bit easier for me. I think the thought of doing all of that crochet rib is just super daunting and does not excite me at all. So yeah, I would encourage you, if you've ever kind of been turned off by a pattern because of a certain element like that, like, don't be afraid to modify it. There is no crafting police. It's your garment. Make it how you want it. I am really excited for these colors. I haven't quite decided what order they're going to go in, other than obviously I started with the cream around the neckline, and I'll finish that kind of at the end with the bands, and there will be kind of some stripies, but I haven't decided if I'm just going to straight up go with like one stripe per color in a pattern, or if I'll kind of randomize them, or maybe some of them will be like 2 or 3 rounds of one color and then 1 round of another color. I haven't really decided yet. I think I might actually just kind of wing it for a few rounds and just see how it goes, see how I feel and how it's coming out. But I'm enjoying it so far. I'm really liking working with the Atlantico. It's soft and squishy, and it's fairly smooth as well. I mean, like pretty much all plant-based fiber ones are, but it also just, there's something oddly plush about this yarn, which is like kind of unusual for cotton. I can't figure out how to properly describe it, but it's really, really been a joy to work with so far. And considering that crochet is not usually my go to, it's making that more of an enjoyable experience for me, which is allowing me to actually enjoy the crochet a little bit more. I think a lot of people ask me if I prefer knitting to crochet, and I do, if I'm being honest. But that's not anything against crochet. It's just because I have been knitting for so much longer than I've been crocheting, and it's really ingrained. The muscle memory is there, and then when I switch to crochet, it's like I gotta teach my brain to just calm down and stop trying to knit. If you know what I mean, I had to kind of almost reteach it to crochet every time I go back to it. I don't give it enough of a chance. I think it's not something that I am kind of reaching for, because usually when I'm reaching for that craft, I want something that is familiar and that I'm comfortable with and I find relaxing. And I don't find the crochet as relaxing yet because I'm not as comfortable with it. So really what I'm trying to say is I should be practicing more crochet and giving it more of a chance. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting, I think, that both of these crafts, even though they're kind of similar in some ways, they're so different in the actual technique, the actual way that they're made. And you do kind of have to train your brain to let go of one when you switch to the other. And I don't know, if I just find that a bit of a challenge sometimes. So anyway, I'm really excited for this cardigan, or for this pullover rather. I think it's going to be super, super cute. And I might get a chance. We'll see how it goes. I'm not sure how quickly I'll be able to get it done. If the weather holds for a little while, I might kind of use it as like an autumn transition piece. It might still be warm enough for that for another little while. Maybe into the middle of September. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed the weather holds. Let's see. So the other whip that I have, I have not got very far on. I started the gauge swatch for this at the knit night. Now, knit night was in the pub this week. Let me back up just a second. Okay, so the new, the other whip that I have, the knitting whip that I have, this is actually another commission. So my cousin came in with her dear friend yesterday and had a lovely chat with them in the shop. Absolutely great. She would like me to knit up a cardigan for her friend for her birthday. Birthday's gone a little bit, but that's okay. So they were perusing through patterns, and her friend Julie came across the jean cardigan, which I'll pop up here. This is by Hannah. Sorry, not Hannah. I was thinking Hannah Cross. That's the other one. It's Johanna Gierisch, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm really sorry. I'm probably butchering that. She's, I believe, a German designer. And I've actually had this pattern in my queue for several months now. It was one I saved ages ago and thought, oh, that's really cute. I'm not sure if it would suit me. I'm not sure if it's really my vibe, but it just, one of those things where it looked really good in the model. I knew it would look good on somebody. So she saw it in the Ravelry binders in the store, and she was like, yep, that one. And I was like, excellent, that works for me. I'm really excited to knit that cardigan anyway. So she decided on the Rosarios Merino for us. So this is DK weight superwash merino. Same yarn that I used for the baby blanket a couple months ago. This is a very lovely denim color. It suited her so well. It's going to be so lovely on her. Right, so I got as far as I started the swatch. This is the saddest amount of swatch you've ever seen, because I started, so as I said, knit night was in the pub. We were in the Watson in Belfast this week, and I made most of my granny squares for my Franny granny pullover while we were there. And then after I kind of got through the squares and I needed to just make the triangles, I thought, I need to watch the video again for triangles, because I always get a bit muddled when I try to make the triangles instead of the half squares. So then I thought, we'll start swatching for the cardigan. Now the cardigan is lace. I would not recommend knitting lace, swatch or no, after you've had a couple of pints. It's it's not a good idea. We didn't get very far. I think I got about 3 rows in and I already couldn't count. So that is as far as we've gotten. But I should get a chance over the weekend here to get the swatch kind of fully done and blocked, and then hopefully it'll come out the right size and I can get stuck in to the cardigan proper. Yeah, I think this one will probably go pretty quickly. It is lacy and open. This is a 4mm needle, which is a little bit smaller than I would normally use for DK, but because it is lacy, I'm expecting the fabric to be quite a bit more loose, and therefore a bit bigger than just ordinary kind of stockinette. So that's what we're swatching with, is 4mm. We'll give that a go. Hopefully it'll be the right size. I hate making multiple swatches. Nobody really enjoys swatching, do they? But necessary evil, especially when you're knitting for somebody other than yourself. So yeah, I will be carrying on with that and hopefully have a little bit more to show you next time on that one. I think that is everything that I had today. That's all the projects that I've kind of got on the go. So I just wanted to say, you may have noticed as well that this podcast is a little late coming out. Probably should have been out next week, but that is partly because I could not get my act together, partly because I felt like I didn't have enough content. And also, I think that I am moving forward. I think that this is just kind of a better time slot for me to work with, rather than having it at the beginning of the month. Just have it a little bit closer to the middle of the month, I think works a little bit better for me. So hopefully you will be seeing me again in 4 weeks' time. So we're aiming for the middle of September now. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for joining me. Hope you found it entertaining or educational. If you have any thoughts on the mystery yarn shortage of my jumper, or how that one stitch column on the sleeve was working. By the way, if you want to see that in a little bit more detail, you can check it out on my Instagram or Facebook page. There is a little video there that just shows exactly what I'm talking about and what happened. I just can't quite wrap my head around that. But if you can, please do let me know in the comments below. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.